I think there's been a mistake. The genetic counselor didn't answer immediately. She simply looked down at the report one more time, then folded her hands together, as if choosing every word with painful care. "I'm very sorry," she finally whispered. "According to the DNA analysis, you are not biologically related to your daughter." For a second, the room lost all sound. The air conditioner hummed. Someone laughed somewhere in the hallway. A printer clicked behind the wall. Everything in the world continued exactly as before, except mine. I stared at the woman across the desk, waiting for her to smile and admit it was some kind of mix-up. Instead, she slowly pushed the folder toward me. Across the top of the page, in cold black letters, were the words, "Probability of maternity, 0.00%. No, that wasn't possible. I had carried Lily for 9 months. I had felt her kick beneath my ribs. I remembered 22 hours of labor. Every scream, every contraction, every exhausted breath before hearing her cry for the first time. I remembered holding her tiny fingers, watching her sleep on my chest, teaching her to walk, bandaging scraped knees, reading bedtime stories until I lost my voice. How could a laboratory erase 15 years with a single sheet of paper? My hands began to shake. There has to be another explanation. The counselor nodded carefully. There usually is. Usually. Not always. That single word lodged itself inside my mind like broken glass, and I had no idea my nightmare had only just begun. 3 days earlier, none of this had existed. My biggest concern had been whether Lily would pass her driving exam. At 15, she was fearless behind the wheel and absolutely hopeless at parallel parking. Every failed attempt ended the same way. She'd throw her hands in the air dramatically. "This car hates me." "It doesn't hate you," I'd laugh. "It fears for innocent mailboxes." She'd roll her eyes, but she'd always laugh too. People often said we looked alike. The same dark hair, the same stubborn eyebrows, even the same habit of biting our lower lip while thinking. Friends joked that she had copied my face perfectly. Every time I heard it, I'd smile. Not because genetics had done their job, because love had. Or so I believed. Our family wasn't perfect. No family's ever is. My husband, Daniel, worked long hours as an architect. Brilliant with buildings. Terrible with emotions. If something hurt him, he'd fix a leaking faucet instead of talking about it. His silence had become another piece of furniture in our house. Always there. Rarely noticed. My younger sister, Emma, practically lived with us. She never married. She bounced between freelance photography jobs, arriving unannounced with coffee, sarcastic comments, and stories about strangers she'd met. Lily adored her. Sometimes I wondered if Emma understood my daughter better than I did. I never saw that as a threat. Families lean on each other. At least that's what I believed then. Looking back now, I wonder how many warning signs hide inside ordinary days. The DNA test hadn't even been my idea. It started because of my father. He'd recently been diagnosed with a rare inherited heart condition. The doctors wanted immediate genetic screening for close relatives. Daniel took his test. I took mine. Lily took hers. Simple, routine, responsible. No one expected surprises. Certainly not this one. The hospital called me instead of sending the results online. That should have been my first clue. The drive home felt unreal. Traffic lights changed. People crossed streets. Someone argued over a parking space. I kept hearing the counselor's voice. "You are not biologically related." No, impossible. Laboratories make mistakes. Samples get switched, labels fall off, computers fail. Science isn't perfect. I repeated those thoughts all the way home until they almost sounded convincing. Almost. When I opened the front door, Lily was sprawled across the couch eating cereal straight from the box. "Mom," she grinned, "you survived hospital bureaucracy." "Barely," she laughed. "You look exhausted." "I am." "Bad news?" For half a second, I almost told her. Instead, I forced a smile. "Just long waiting times." She accepted the answer instantly. Teenagers usually do. They assume adults understand the world. If only she knew. She wandered into the kitchen, humming softly. I watched her disappear around the corner. Every instinct inside me screamed the same thing. She's your daughter. She has to be. So why did the paper insist otherwise? That night, I couldn't sleep. Daniel lay beside me, breathing steadily. I almost woke him. Instead, I stared into the darkness. The possibilities chased one another through my head. Wrong samples, administrative error, hospital negligence, identity theft, anything except the obvious. Around 2 a.m, I climbed into the attic. Old boxes covered every shelf. Baby clothes, birthday decorations, photo albums, hospital paperwork. I searched for Lily's birth records. After an hour, I finally found the faded folder. Inside was everything: birth certificate, footprints, vaccination forms, hospital wristbands. Mine, Daniel's, and Lily's. I held the tiny plastic bracelet in my hand. It still had her newborn identification number. The same bracelet I'd cried over before placing it into that folder 15 years earlier. Proof, wasn't it? Then something slipped from between the papers. A folded receipt. Not from the maternity ward, from the hospital cafeteria. Time stamped. 3 hours after Lily's birth. Across the bottom, someone had scribbled a note in blue ink. Room changed. Baby transferred. Don't tell the mother until Dr. Harris arrives. I froze. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. Transferred. What baby? Why wouldn't they tell the mother? Was this about another family? Or was it about mine? I looked toward the attic stairs. Down below, my family slept peacefully, completely unaware that 15 years of certainty had just begun to crumble. And for the first time since hearing the DNA results, I realized something far more terrifying. Maybe the laboratory hadn't made a mistake. Maybe someone else had. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid of losing my daughter. That was impossible. I had already lost something much more fragile. My certainty. For 15 years, I had believed I knew the story of Lily's birth. The hospital. The doctors. The first time I held her. The first time I whispered, "Mommy's here." But now, one small note written on an old receipt had created a question I couldn't escape. Was Lily really the baby they placed in my arms? At 6:30 in the morning, I was still sitting on the attic floor surrounded by boxes. Baby clothes, old photographs, birthday cards, memories that suddenly felt like evidence. I picked up a picture from Lily's first birthday. She was sitting in front of a cake, her face covered in chocolate, laughing while Daniel tried to clean her hands. I remembered that day perfectly. The happiness, the exhaustion, the feeling that my life was finally complete. I pressed the photo against my chest. "You're my daughter," I whispered. But even saying it out loud felt different now, because somewhere deep inside, a terrifying question had appeared. What if being a mother wasn't about biology? And what if someone had stolen the chance for me to know the truth? I waited until Daniel left for work, before I made the call. I didn't want Lily to hear. I didn't want Daniel to see the panic on my face. The only person who could answer my questions was the hospital. I dialed the number written on the old paperwork. After 10 minutes of transfers, a receptionist finally connected me with medical records. "Good morning. How can I help you?" "My daughter was born there 15 years ago," I said. My voice sounded strange, too calm. "I'm requesting the complete birth records." There was a pause, a small one, but I noticed it. "May I ask why?" "Because I need to verify something." Another pause, this time longer. "Mrs. Carter, your daughter's records are archived. It may take several days." "That's fine." I almost hung up. Then I asked, "Was there ever an incident involving newborn transfers that year?" Silence. Not confusion. Not uncertainty. Silence. The kind that happens when someone hears a question they hoped nobody would ask. "Why are you asking that?" My fingers tightened around the phone. "Because I found a note saying a baby was transferred from a room, and the mother wasn't informed until a doctor arrived." The receptionist breathed in sharply. Then she lowered her voice. "Mrs. Carter, where did you get that note?" I didn't answer. I didn't know if telling the truth would help me, or warn someone. "Can you just tell me if there was an incident?" "I think you should speak with the hospital administration." "Why?" Another pause. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. "Because that situation was never supposed to become part of the public record." The call ended. For the first time, I considered the possibility that someone knew. Someone had always known. The question was, who? My first suspicion was Daniel. Not because I thought he would hurt me, because he had always been the person who controlled information. Daniel wasn't a liar. At least, I never caught him lying. But he had a habit. A terrible habit. He decided what people needed to know. When my mother died, he waited 2 days before telling me that her condition had become critical. When his company struggled financially, he hid it for months because he didn't want me to worry. His weakness wasn't cruelty. It was control. He believed protecting people meant carrying the truth alone. But what if 15 years ago, he had decided I couldn't handle the truth? What if he knew? That afternoon, I searched through old emails. I hated myself for doing it. This was my husband. The man who held my hand through childbirth. The man who stayed awake beside Lily's hospital bed when she had pneumonia. The man who cried when she called him Daddy for the first time. But fear changes people, and fear makes you look for answers anywhere. After 2 hours, I found something. An email from Daniel. Date: 3 days after Lily was born. The subject line was strange. Regarding the paperwork. My heart started racing. I opened it. The email was empty. No message. Only one attachment. A scanned document. I clicked. The file wouldn't open. Password protected. I stared at the screen. Daniel had locked a document from the week Lily was born. Why? Before I could think, my phone rang. It was Emma, my sister. "Hey," she said cheerfully. "You disappeared yesterday. Everything okay?" I hesitated, then asked, "Emma, do you remember Lily's birth?" Her tone changed immediately. "Of course." "Do you remember anything unusual?" "Like what?" "I don't know. Anything." A few seconds passed. Then she laughed softly. "Why are you asking me like I'm hiding something?" "Because now I wondered if you were." I didn't say it. "Just answer." Emma became quiet. "I remember you were exhausted. Daniel was stressed. The hospital was chaotic." "Chaotic how?" Why does this sound like an interrogation? Emma, she sighed. Fine. Another pause. Then, there was a woman. My hand froze. What woman? I don't know. A patient. Maybe. Why do you remember her? Because she was crying. About what? Emma didn't answer immediately, and that scared me more than anything. Emma. Finally, she whispered. She kept saying someone had taken her baby. The room suddenly felt colder. What? I don't know what happened. I was 20 years old. I thought she was confused. Nurses told everyone to ignore her. My heartbeat became louder. Did you see her? No. Did you talk to her? No. Then why do you remember? Emma's voice became almost impossible to hear. Because she grabbed my arm. I stopped breathing. What did she say? Another long silence. Then, she said, "If you see my daughter, tell her I never stopped looking." I didn't speak. Neither did Emma. 15 years of memories rearranged themselves in my head. A crying woman, a transferred baby, a hidden document, a DNA result that should have been impossible. And suddenly, my biggest fear changed. I had spent hours wondering if Lily wasn't my biological daughter. But what if that wasn't the real tragedy? What if Lily belonged to another mother? And someone had spent 15 years making sure neither of us ever found out. That evening, Daniel came home later than usual. Much later. I was sitting at the kitchen table with the old receipt in front of me. When he walked in, he immediately stopped. His eyes moved from my face to the paper, and for 1 second, just 1 second, I saw something I had never seen before. Fear, not confusion, not surprise. Fear. "Where did you get that?" he asked. My entire body went still, because Daniel didn't ask, "What is that?" He didn't ask, "Why are you looking at old papers?" He asked, "Where did you get that?" Like he already knew exactly what it was. I slowly stood up. Daniel. He didn't move. What happened the day Lily was born? His face changed, only slightly, but enough. The man who could handle million-dollar projects. The man who never panicked. The man who always had an answer. Suddenly, had none. I can explain. Those 4 words broke something inside me. Because innocent people usually say, "I don't understand." They don't say, "I can explain." I looked at my husband, the father who raised Lily, the man I trusted more than anyone, and for the first time in 15 years, I wondered if he had been protecting our family, or protecting a secret. Then he said something I never expected. "You're asking the wrong question." I felt my stomach drop. What does that mean? Daniel looked toward the stairs where Lily's room was, then back at me. "The question isn't whether Lily is your daughter." He swallowed. "The question is, who was the baby they gave you?" And suddenly I realized. Daniel wasn't the person hiding the truth from me. He was the person who had been terrified of it coming out. For 15 years, I believed the hardest moment of motherhood was giving birth. I was wrong. The hardest moment was standing in my own kitchen, looking at the man I loved, and realizing he had been carrying a secret that could destroy everything we built. Daniel sat across from me. For the first time in our marriage, he looked small, not guilty, not angry, just exhausted, like a man who had been running from something for years and finally ran out of places to hide. "Tell me everything," I said. He looked at the old receipt on the table. "I should have told you a long time ago." My hands tightened around the edge of the chair. "Then why didn't you?" His eyes filled with regret. "Because I was afraid." That answer hurt more than anger would have. Afraid of what? Daniel looked toward the stairs again, toward Lily's room. Of losing her. The words landed between us, because I understood. Not completely, but enough. Daniel wasn't hiding because he didn't care. He was hiding because he cared too much. And somehow, that made it even harder to forgive. The day Lily was born, Daniel began, there was a mistake at the hospital. I didn't blink. Not a small mistake. He took a breath. A baby was taken to the wrong room. The world became silent. You knew? He nodded. Not at first. Daniel explained that hours after Lily's birth, a nurse came into the room looking nervous. She said there had been confusion with the newborn identification bracelets. 2 babies born within minutes of each other had been temporarily mixed during an emergency transfer. The hospital launched an investigation. The staff eventually insisted everything had been corrected. The bracelets were checked. The records were updated. The babies were with the right mothers. Everyone moved on. Everyone except one person. The other mother didn't believe them, Daniel said. Why? Because her baby had a birthmark. I stared at him. A small mark behind her left ear. My heart started beating faster. Does Lily have one? Daniel looked away. No. The room spun slightly. So you knew? I knew there was a possibility. A possibility. A horrible, impossible possibility. You let me raise a child while wondering if she was mine. His face broke. I watched you become her mother. I watched you love her. I watched her call you Mom. His voice cracked. How could I take that away from you? I wanted to scream. I wanted to understand. I wanted to forgive him. But those emotions collided inside me until I couldn't separate them. Then Daniel said the sentence that changed everything. The other mother found out about the mistake. My breathing stopped. She tried to reopen the case. Who was she? Daniel hesitated, and that hesitation terrified me. Her name was Sarah Mitchell. I searched the name before Daniel even finished speaking. There were thousands of results, but one caught my attention. A local article from 15 years ago. Mother. Continues fight after hospital dispute over newborn identity. The photo showed a woman standing outside the hospital. She looked younger, broken, determined, and behind her ear, I saw the tattoo. A small blue flower. Not a birthmark. A tattoo. I looked closer. Then I noticed something. The article wasn't about a woman trying to steal another family's child. It was about a woman trying to find hers. My entire understanding changed. Sarah wasn't the villain. She was another mother who had lost 15 years. The next morning, I found her. Not because I was ready, because I needed answers. Sarah owned a small flower shop across town. When I walked inside, she looked up from arranging roses. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Because mothers recognize pain, even when they don't know why. Are you Sarah Mitchell? Her expression immediately changed. Who are you? I placed the DNA report on the counter. Her hands started shaking. No. A whisper. Not fear. Recognition. You know me. She looked at the paper, then at my face. You're her. I froze. Her who? Sarah covered her mouth. The other mother. She didn't scream. She didn't accuse me. She didn't demand answers. She simply sat down. Like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. I spent 15 years wondering if I imagined it, she said. Imagined what? The feeling that my daughter was somewhere. Tears rolled down her face. I was told I was unstable. That grief had affected my memory. They said I was looking for something that wasn't there. I sat across from her. What happened to your baby? Sarah opened a drawer behind the counter. Inside was a photograph, a newborn, a tiny girl wrapped in a pink blanket. Her name was Anna. My heart stopped. Where is she now? Sarah looked at me, and the answer came before she spoke. She's with you. The test results were repeated 3 times. Different laboratories, different specialists. The truth was impossible to escape. Lily was Anna, Sarah's biological daughter, and I was the woman who raised her, the woman who kissed her goodnight, the woman she ran to when she was scared. Biology had a name for our relationship, but love had its own. Telling Lily was the hardest thing I ever did. We sat in the living room, Daniel beside me, Sarah across from us. Lily kept looking between our faces. Is someone dying? No, I whispered. Then why does everyone look like this? I reached for her hand. My daughter. My daughter. Even if the world wanted to complicate that word, there was something that happened when you were born. She listened, quietly, too quietly. When we finished explaining, she didn't cry. She just stared. Then she asked Sarah, "Did you look for me?" Sarah broke instantly. "Every day." Lily looked down. "And you?" She turned to me. I couldn't speak, because the answer was obvious. "Every day," I whispered. For the first time that evening, Lily cried. Not because she had 2 mothers, because she realized she had 2 mothers who had both lost something. Months later, our family looked different. Not broken. Different. Sarah became part of Lily's life slowly, carefully. She didn't try to replace me, and I didn't try to erase her. That was the hardest lesson. Love isn't a limited amount that disappears when shared, but it can be damaged when people are too afraid of the truth. Daniel spent years believing he was protecting us. Instead, he created a secret that nearly destroyed us. Emma apologized for keeping the hospital story buried. She admitted her weakness. She avoided conflict. She convinced herself silence was kindness. It wasn't. A year after the truth came out, Lily asked me something I'll never forget. "Mom?" "Yes?" "If you knew from the beginning, would you still have chosen me?" I smiled through tears, because after everything, the answer was the simplest one. I didn't choose you, because you were born from me. I held her hand. I chose you, because every day you became my daughter. She smiled, and that was the moment I finally understood something. The DNA test didn't prove I wasn't Lily's mother. It proved that motherhood was bigger than blood. But the truth we spent 15 years avoiding taught us something even more important. Secrets don't protect families. Sometimes they are the very thing that breaks them. Sometimes the people who hurt us are not trying to destroy us. Sometimes they are simply afraid of losing what they love. But love built on hidden truths eventually becomes a prison. The strongest families are not the ones without painful secrets. They are the ones brave enough to face them together. What would you have done if you discovered your child wasn't biologically yours after 15 years? Would you search for the truth or protect the life you already built? Share your opinion in the comments.